Perfect. So hey everyone, I am Jasmine from Hanglands, and today I'm going to be running the promotion and audience building session. Obviously, Whiskers has been running the last two, but very kindly asked me to jump on this one. So yeah, let's just get going. So the future sessions, there's going to be one on the 25th of July, which is finding funding for your music project. You know, earning money through music can be quite difficult sometimes. It's not always the easiest thing. There's lots of funding out there that can really help you, help you with a campaign, help you, get your music out there. So that's a really important one. And I also think those applications can be mind-boggling. Like they can be, not the easiest to read. They don't make it the easiest. So I feel like that session is going to be really useful. And then also on the 1st of August, getting out there and playing live. So that can be, you might have put out an album, but you don't know how you wanna get that out in a live way. You don't know how to approach agents or promoters. So again, that's a really useful one as an artist. I'm sure you all know, but there's going to be recordings of these sessions so you can kind of watch them back. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end where you can ask any questions. Or if you don't want to ask in this chat, you can always email me, which I'll get onto at the end of the session. Okay, so I thought I'd just do a little rundown of who I am, in case none of you know. So I am Jasmine. I work for a company called Hanglands, based in Leeds. We are, if any of you know, the Yorkshire Dance Building just opposite the Conservatoire. Um, we're based in Yorkshire Dance, just opposite Come Play With Me office. And I got to this place. I've been working here for 2 years now. So my background is well, when I finished school, I went to what was the Leeds College of Music at the time. Obviously, it's the Conservatoire now, and they offered um, a 2 year kind of A-level equivalent called a level 3 extended diploma, and I did that in music performance, and I loved it, and I thought it was great. But when I was kind of deciding where I wanted to go to uni, I didn't really want to do performance. I wasn't. I loved it, but I just didn't want to study it. So I'd always kind of, been into English, and I felt like that was the natural progression. So I ended up at BIM Manchester. I'm sure a lot of you know the BIM universities. So I ended up going there and studying there for 3 years, which was, it gave me some of the skills that I obviously have now. But it also just made me realize that I didn't really want to do music journalism, and I kind of just um, went because it was, I chose that course. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. So I did that course, loved it, hated it. But yeah, so I kind of left there and moved back to Leeds. Was working at the Brudenell for a few years. And then was just chatting to the manager there about kind of what my next steps were and how I was kind of had an interest in PR and marketing. I didn't really know tons and tons about it. Like that wasn't obviously what I studied, but I feel like, yeah, you study like a lot of music business um in music journalism, like all of the things that we learned, I feel like you could really like adapt. So I ended up starting at Hanglands as an intern just over 2 years ago. And then within 3 months I went full time, and then here I am now. So I work as an account manager here. Um, there's two other guys who work with me. There's Sam, and then there's also Harry. Um, and yeah, and I love it, and it's great, and yeah, I feel like it all worked out for the best. So I just wanted to run kind of through some of the clients that we work with, um, just so you can kind of get an idea of the kind of things that we do, kind of the knowledge I have. So yeah, so if you look in the top left corner, there's an artist called Eleanor Moss. So like for example, for her, we started working with her like kind of at the very beginning of she had other projects that she did before. But this was kind of the first thing she did as like Eleanor Moss. So that was um that was really exciting to be part of. So she was working with Blue Raincoat, who look after kind of Arlo Parks and Phoebe Bridges, which is amazing, obviously. And she's amazing. She's an incredible musician. So we started working with her for her first two EPs, um, just on PR, and yeah, it was really amazing to work on that um, with her. And she's got a lot of exciting things coming. And then Press On, not sure how many of you will be aware, but it's like the newest pressing plant in the UK, based in Middlesbrough. So for them, we kind of started working with them um, from like again the beginning. Like we first started, kind of came on board when it was an empty, huge factory. There's nothing in it, but we were kind of brought in for PR, running their socials, marketing, also strategy. Like just lend like I feel like the work that we do isn't confined. Like it's not confined by our roles. Um, yeah, we can be pretty, flexible in what we do. And for example, for them, we now just do the odd, big kind of PR campaign. But once the factory was kind of up and running, we kind of passed over socials, etc. for them. But they're doing great. And yeah, they're really nice, right, nice guys to work on. And then another artist, it's Green Gardens. They're a Leeds band. They're really amazing. They've just started um, working with Come Play With Me, and also EMI North, which I'm sure a lot of you are aware of both of those. But they have an album coming um, in August. So for them, again, kind of the same with Eleanor. And actually, if you look down at the bottom left, same with an artist called Rue Paynes, that we just finished a campaign with. So really for artists, we'll generally look after just their PR, but with a bit of like consultancy kind of mixed into there. And then bottom middle is Long Division Festival. That festival had been running for 10 years. This was a picture from their festival. It's just gone. Sadly was their last one. That was a really amazing festival. And again, we kind of worked on social and PR, and again, a little bit of marketing. And strategy as well. So that's really great. And then last one, just to use an example, Deer Shed Festival. So that's kind of like an example of a client where we look after a very like um, broad amount of stuff. So we're kind of their entire comms team. So that's like for the entire year, we're looking after their marketing, their social, their strategy, consultancy, PR. Like yeah, it's all very ongoing throughout the entire year, and that obviously comes in waves. Um, Depending on, are we trying to push tickets? Are we putting out, a lineup and an announcement? And then it also goes on to us being on site for the entirety of the festival as well. So yeah, that's just a few examples of the kind of people that we work with. And hopefully that kind of gave you a bit of an overview on who I am and the work that we do. Um, so let's get into it. So we're going to be working on three audience types. So the first one is the real or offline. So this is kind of um, in person, the people that you might see in the street, that people might be coming to your shows. Um, Online, obviously this is so broad because everybody is online. But this is like, yeah, how are you going to connect through such a huge audience? of the online world, and that's what obviously we'll kind of look into today. Um, and then press and influencers. How are you gonna connect with press? How are you gonna connect with other people in your world? And by influencers, we don't mean like, your typical like Instagram ad people who try and sell you beauty products or whatever it is. These are the people who are kind of um influential in the music world that you're kind of trying to get your music across. Um, so we're gonna look at audience identification. Um, who are they? And this is kind of what we're gonna need to work out. And obviously, it can be so broad. Nothing that we kind of go over today is, you're not gonna leave this today thinking, I know my exact audience, these are the exact people, because it is so broad. But I feel like you can kind of be able to narrow it down, kind of start thinking a bit more about, who the people are that you're going to kind of want to be targeting. So who are you appealing to, and where do you kind of fit in? Are you more Six Music? Are you more Radio One? Are you more DIY Magazine? Are you more Kerrang? Like, again, there's gonna be crossovers in these, but yeah, if we can kind of start to pinpoint and start to think about it in a different way, I think it's gonna make it way easier when you're kind of trying to identify who you're kind of looking at. And then who's enjoying it, who is coming to your shows, um who's actively trying to support you, you might put out, I don't know, a new single, who's sharing it on Instagram, who's kind of liking it, who's engaging with it. Um, and then obviously it's very nice when your family and friends are super supportive. But these aren't the people that we kind of, we obviously they're great. It's like that core of our audience, but that's not really what we're kind of looking at. We need to kind of delve a bit deeper, and be able to kind of build a real audience of, new fans, new people who are going to be engaging with you. Okay, so this is just going to be something for you to think about. You don't have to, answer this right now, but I think it's just quite nice for something to think about. So what information can you use to create a profile of your audience? So what are the different demographics of your audience, and how can you use that to kind of build your audience essentially? And hopefully kind of by the end of this session, you'll be able to have a bit of, you might already have a bit of an idea of that in your head. Or you might think you do, when, after this session, you might kind of change your mind. But yeah, hopefully by the end of the session, you'll be able to give a bit of more of a clear answer to this. So we're going to be looking at the kind of audience basics. Like, this is the kind of three absolute bare minimum simple kind of parts of your audience that you might want to have a look at. So age, obviously this doesn't always matter too much. It's not always confined to one age, but generally, are you looking at students? Are you looking at, like a way older audience? Is it just middle? Is it people with, parents? It can be, again, doesn't have to be confined, but yeah, it's a good place to kind of start. Gender, who's listening to your music. And again, this might not be too important, but this might just kind of come into, who of a certain gender might be more likely to relate to your music. Location, is it on your doorstep? Is it a local show? Has your hometown got a good following? Do you need to build that hometown following, or are you playing local shows and no one's coming, but you play a London show and you've got like this huge following. So yeah, it's kind of figuring that out. It doesn't have to be city by city. It could be is it online? um what what platform what platforms are your audience using? So yeah, that's the three kind of basics that you want to be looking at. And we can go a little bit further with that. So, audience identification. So, alongside the basic, more detailed information includes interests. Think outside of music too. Are they into sport? Kind of tie that in. You know, there's, it might be a bit too are they all seem to be in like into a certain type of football team, or it can be, or it could be something as basic as like everyone likes. So obviously these are like silly examples, but yeah, it's kind of thinking outside of music, like what are their interests? Skateboarding, is it? Yeah. Okay, so what other music slash artists do they like? um you can kind of get, this is like a relatively easy thing to do. You can kind of know generally what kind of you kind of know what you kind of associate with other artists that might sound like you. What do they wear? You know, is it baggy jeans? Is it a certain type of aesthetic that like fits in with a certain type of music? Like I know sometimes I'll like say you go to like a hardcore show, everyone seems to be wearing like the baggiest pants in the world and dirty a big t-shirt, or you might go to, I don't know, you see it, I've seen quite a lot at the moment, and it's people going to like Harry Styles shows, and they're all wearing these like really amazing like fluorescent like really flamboyant outfits. So obviously again things like that sometimes it doesn't matter, and it's not necessary to think about. But yeah, sometimes you are able to kind of pinpoint just from kind of the that they wear. Same thing with, do they have tattoos or piercings? How does that kind of affect kind of what they're into? Do they go out? If so, like what to and where? Is it kind of gigs? Is it like, do they like raving? Is it house parties? Do they just like sitting in a pub? Um, how does that kind of change what kind of music into what they kind of want to engage in? What do they read? Are they reading music magazines? If so, like um what are they into? Does it matter really what they're reading? Does that have a direct correlation? And sometimes it might be so broad that there isn't, but I do feel like in certain circumstances, you can make slight judgments on what kind of relates to what. If you see someone reading Quran, you can kind of guess what kind of thing they're in. And same with, so all that kind of thing. What films do they like? Again, do they like, is it a certain type, all these kind of coming films that has a bit of a correlation to certain types of music? Uh, and are they into sport? And think about, how do you do this? So it's like us about this, but you want to pinpoint how exactly you're going to do it. So look at your current audience, and then you want to look at the audience of artists that you share similarities with. Because if you can kind of, so you can kind of take an artist that you you have, that you're quite similar to. There's no reason for you not to obviously not pinch them, but you just start making those associations, and no reason why they then can't become your fans as well. um Again, looking at the gigs that they go to, the bars, the nights, the shops, where are they shopping? How can you kind of build that idea of your from all of these things. Where can you find this in? So I'm just gonna make an assumption you all have music on Spotify. And if not, that's fine. But Spotify for Artists is a really great resource. Um, yeah, so it's going to give you like a bit of a rough idea of who's listening to your music, and it's all well and good having this kind of idea of who the audience is. Um, as you would like, yeah, we all have assumptions on who's going to be listening to what kind of this is like a really good way to kind of pinpoint it a little bit. So you can look at the gender, their age. Sometimes these stats can be surprising. You might think that you're appealing to like a really young audience, but you might actually be fitting into a slightly older audience. Um, and then I think probably like one of the most important parts of Spotify for Artists is looking at the other artists that people are listening to. Because again, you might have assumptions. This is the thing because it is all quite assumption based until you actually kind of delve into your audience, and then you can kind of make judgments from that. So other artists that they listen to, yeah, this might surprise you, for example. You might think that you fit in this a certain type of genre. But yeah, this just gives you a bit of an idea of kind of where you're at, what people are into, who they associate you with. And then also where people are listening, again, I think is quite an important one. And you can obviously do this by country, but I'm pretty sure you can also do it by city. Um, but this can be a really good tool for um like live, because you can kind of, obviously these stats are a little bit different, but you might already know that, your streams are mainly coming from the UK because that's where you have a following. But you might not have realized that you actually had um a big following in France, for example. So then you might, if you have enough streams, you might think about booking shows there. Um, and again, like if you want to go back to the UK, you can kind of look at, if you say if you were thinking about a UK tour, you can kind of look at what cities people are listening to you and kind of plan from that. And then also not just for live, you could, for example, you might have a huge following in Malaysia. It might just be for for example that you just happen to have connected with people there, so, it might not be just as simple as booking some shows there, but how can you kind of engage those people? Okay, so maybe what you'll do is you'll go on Instagram Live. Obviously, it might be a different it might be the middle of the night here or whatever it is. So, but maybe you can do that and you can kind of engage those followers that way. So there is different ways you can kind of use stats, and I know that sometimes it can feel a little bit boring to kind of delve into stats, and you just want to make music, obviously, that's the thing that you want to do the most. But yeah, I think it can be a really great tool. And it's there, it doesn't cost you to do this, and you can just look at it at a quick glance and you can kind of find out where you're at, really. um okay, so another little task for you all to think about. Um, so how can you sell yourself and communicate what you're doing with your audience? So, you know, you're making this music, you're really happy with it. Um, but how can you kind of sell that? How can you kind of get your message across and communicate with what you're doing to your audience? Because sometimes it isn't just as easy as just putting the music out and people automatically to kind of connect with it. You want people to engage with the person that you are. You might want to engage with them, that you want them to see a kind of genuine connection. So yeah, that's just something to think about. So audience segments. So convert people who enjoy and engage with your music. So this is obviously people who let's think of these as the like core fans. So these are the people who already enjoy your music. You know, they're coming to shows, they're buying your merch, they're engaging with your music, they're downloading the album, they're streaming, they're watching your music videos, they're talking to other people about your music. They're the people that are the real fans, if you will. And obviously as an artist you want to build your audience, because it's crucial. You want as many people to be enjoying your music as possible, but I think that whilst doing that you need to kind of remember that these are the core fans. These are the people who were there kind of in the beginning, if you will. So yeah, building your audience without kind of forgetting about these people. And then you want to start thinking about your targets, people whose audience you want to reach. So this is obviously when you start thinking, um, who are the people that you want to be at your shows. You've got 50 people at your show who are already, engaging, but you might want to add another 20 for the next show. So how are these people are going to be engaging with you? So this could be, other artists, it could be press, it could be radio. The audience might already be there, like I said. There might be artists that are similar to you. So like, how are you gonna kind of bring their audience across, and who do you kind of want to be engaged with? Um, so things you want to consider. So your bio. So this would be across your social media platforms. We'll get onto those a little bit later. Um, but yeah, your bio. Do you want it to be interesting? Do you want it to be informative? Do you want it to be formal? Is it appropriate? Is it up to date? Maybe it's, something as simple as like new single out, etc. date. Um, but maybe that came out 6 months ago. And obviously running your social media can be, a bit of a slog. But hopefully today we'll be able to kind of look at how we can make that less of a slog as possible. Um, your style, this might not be appropriate. Obviously, you take what you kind of want from this. But yeah, your style, does it matter? Do you want to kind of come across quite natural? Do you want to just wear, the clothes that you want on stage, offer you, because are you taking on like, a different persona? Is that something that's kind of a part of it? Are you wearing colors? Are you just wearing all black? That kind of comes into it as well. Decide on your voice. How are you going to be addressing fans, your socials? How are you going to be setting the tone in your delivery? How will you address your fans? Again, something that you don't have to do, but something that you might think about. You know, Quite a lot of bigger artists do it. Lady Gaga does it. She has monsters. Does it feel right to have that? Does it feel natural? You don't have to do it if it doesn't. Um, but I feel like that can be a way to get people to feel a bit of a togetherness. Um, and for certain types of artists, I feel like that's quite an important one. Um, Engaging fans at shows. Um, this doesn't have to be, anything super extravagant or expensive. This could literally be, you finish a show and you say, oh, like I'll be at the merch stand at the end of the show, come say hello. That is already so much more personal than you just going off stage and then just going off and and walking off and having a beer with your mates. And, sometimes you might want to do that. Um, but, people might love your music, but, having, being able to chat to you about it. And I just feel like it just gives that like so much more personal feel, which I think, people kind of take away something with that more than just watching you on the stage. A mailing list, again, important. Get people to sign up to your mailing list. Having a um, contact point that isn't socials, I think is really important. Kind of being able to get your message across. Like I'm sure a lot of you know, but the algorithm on social media is kind of it's destroying like a lot of engagement for, well, just everyone, to be honest. So never mind artists. But if you can kind of, get people signed up to your mailing list, and I know I feel like people people kind of neglect mailing lists sometimes. I feel like it feels like like a bit old school, a bit, a bit formal. But yeah, I think a mailing list is really important because all the information that you want to share is going directly to them. They're almost definitely going to see it. Um, Freebies, again, obviously it kind of depends on your budget. But you can do things like printing stickers quite cheaply. Um, and that just kind of, yeah, it's kind of like what I said with the merch stand. It kind of gives people something a little bit extra to kind of take away with them, that they wouldn't be expecting almost. Um, so yeah, I feel like that's something to think about, um, how you can kind of engage fans at shows. Engaging with your press, you want to be thinking about who are your targets. Um, and this doesn't have to be, the biggest publications ever. It doesn't have to be Six Music, it doesn't have to be Radio One. You can just start thinking about smaller blogs, who locally is running a blog, who's, or a fanzine, or anything like that. How can you be engaging with these people? And one thing I was thinking about is, um, you know, you might have someone running something quite local, but a lot of the time they end up kind of running things. um they might have a one-off thing for Clash or whatever it is. So I think engaging with press where appropriate, obviously, you know with the right press, you want to be able to think about where you kind of fit in and if you fit in with them. But I think that, yeah, can be quite useful as well. How will you stand out? um Obviously, it's quite difficult sometimes to stand out. Everyone's kind of, you know not doing the same thing, but everyone's trying to kind of get to a higher level. So how are you going to be able to stand out in that way? Is your live show good enough? You might have made a brilliant record, but is your live show, as polished as it could be? Could you maybe record your practice and have a look to see how that is? And I feel like sometimes we find it hard to like criticize ourselves that way. Um, but yeah, I think if you can start to start to just look inwards, how are people, how are you being perceived? Could you maybe record your live show before a show and get someone else to watch it who might be able to give you a bit of feedback? So, a couple of things you can do: practice the whole live show again. Are you a bit shy? Do you not know, do you not know how to engage with people on the stage? How are you going to walk on? I think you just have this kind of idea in your head of, how you're going to behave. And then obviously, it can be a bit nerve-wracking. Um, like walking on the stage, how are you going to present yourself? What are you going to do between songs? Are you quite good at that? Are you quite good at that kind of small talk? Have you thought about, if you might have practiced, a 2-minute segment where you need to change tuning, but what if someone, needs to do something else? What if someone needs to go off stage? How are you going to kind of fill that time? So all of these things is kind of how you're going to be perceived. Um, and things to just think about when you're kind of wanting to build that audience. um how are you going to write on your socials? Be consistent. And again, I know this isn't the easiest thing in the world, especially if you're not kind of natural at running socials. sometimes it kind of comes so naturally to people. People are always, putting things in the story, kind of doing all these things. Some people, it's effort, and you have to think, oh, I haven't posted on my socials in a while. I need to do this. But hopefully, I'm going to kind of run through a couple of bits which might help with that. How will you take your approach to social media? Again, kind of like what I was just saying. Are you gonna post consistently every day? Are you gonna, be all mysterious? Are you just gonna have a grid of kind of your next album artwork? What's it gonna be, and how do you want that to be perceived? If you were looking in on someone else, how would you kind of take that? Oh, and have you got an EPK? But we can kind of get onto that in a little bit. So, for fans of, work out who you are similar to, use as identifiers for people to relate to, for example, on flyers and posters. So, you want to kind of pinpoint who you're similar to. You might be having a show, say you booked a local show, tickets are a little bit slow. You want to kind of think about, okay, who is doing quite well that I'm similar to? I know I've done it. I know there's a promoter called Dirty Otter who are in Leeds, and they're really great at doing it. So when they have a show, it might not be a name that, tons and tons and tons of people know, um, but they will kind of put, whoever it is, the date, where it is, and then for fans of, for example, like modern baseball, or whoever it is, someone who kind of lives in that world, that people might think, oh, actually, do you know what? I really like modern baseball. I'm gonna go and check this band out. And so I feel like that's quite an easy way to do it. How can they hear your music? You want to make this as easy as possible. People are lazy, and you want to, if you're wanting to kind of share your music, you want to make it as accessible as possible. Things like QR codes are so easy to do, literally like a click of a button. Um, so yeah, so if you're making a poster, you just think about it yourself. So if you see a poster, and it says, listen now, are you gonna scan a QR code, or are you gonna type in www.spotify, blah, blah, blah. You want to think about it, and as if you are the audience, and kind of think about what you would want, how quickly accessible you'd kind of want to hear stuff, especially yeah, especially now, like, everything is so quick, everything's so snappy. um just make it as easy as possible for people. Network, and yeah, this is obviously, you know it's sometimes, it might come naturally to you, it might not, but it is a really important one. So obviously Launchpad have conferences, come play with me, do stuff. And yeah, I think it's just, it's important. And I was chatting to someone the other day, and I was saying, when you're having this conversation, and networking can feel quite daunting, and it can feel, um, at these events, and everyone's kind of chatting, and yeah, it can be a bit, but yeah, I feel like most of the people that you meet, just, people just want to see you kind of excel. Um, you know, if you go up to someone and say, like, hey, like, I do this, no one's really gonna turn their nose up at you. And that's how you can make the best kind of introductions. And also, if you can, obviously it's not always, it doesn't always work like this, but if you can, at these things, more than likely, if you don't know that person, someone else knows that person, and kind of get them to kind of, introduce you. And also, you don't have to network in person. It can be online, which we can get into as well. Collaborate, how can you work with other artists? They're not your competition. You need to not think about them in that way. Can you collaborate on a track? Could you do something together? Could you work with a producer? Could you, there's lots of things you can kind of do collaboration wise. Again, features, could you put on a gig? Could you do a co-headline? Kind of, you might have an audience and they might have an audience, so why can you not bring them together? And the likelihood is that the audience is going to be into it. You're kind of sharing an audience, sharing love for each other on socials. Can you be sharing on your story? This band just put out a new album. Really love this track. Go check it out. It can be things as simple as that. So yeah, cross posting. I'd invite you to yeah, you can be sharing things on socials all the time. There's tons of stuff you can be doing. Your committed fans, could you have a street team or a fan club? This might feel a bit awkward. It might, this could literally just be your friends, but if you've seen an artist that are playing in Leeds or wherever it is that you live, could you take a bunch of flyers? Could you get a bunch of people down? Just a flyer on the street, can you kind of build an audience that way? What can you give to people for them to um, engage in your audience? Make it easier on your audience and a potential audience to engage with you. So all of these things are gonna be useful. Again, just don't overcomplicate it. It doesn't need to be overcomplicated. You don't have to do exactly all of these things. Kind of pick out one, see if that's working for you. Are you actually going to flyer a gig and they're just kind of ending up on the floor? Is it not that kind of audience that want to be given flyers? Is it going to be more useful to you to spend a few hours at a launchpad conference? So yeah, just something. Um, Audience identification task again. Who are your favorite artists on social media and why? Why do you kind of like what they're sharing? So a few examples. Yard Act is they're really conversational. I'm pretty sure like most of the posts they kind of sign off with their name. They're really active in the comments. They're really it was really engaging. It feels like you're just talking to a friend, which I think obviously, a lot of people love. And, on the complete other side of that, you got people like Adele. So I had a look at her socials the other week and they're all they're all just a professional shot of her with her is it a Las Vegas residency and it's kind of like week 1, week 2, week 3. So, are you taking that kind of approach? Are you trying to keep it, super, super slick and professional? If you're trying to build your audience, it's probably not the way to go. Or someone like Little Sims, is it going to be a professional shot with a mix of, personal shots? You can kind of tell that she's the person that's writing the captions. So I feel like you kind of just need to decide, how you want to perceive, how you kind of perceive other artists from their social media, and why that's kind of engaging. Socials, understand each platform and how it works. Um, so you want to kind of exist on each platform, even if you're not using them all exactly. So I'd say where you need to be is Facebook, Twitter slash Threads, and Instagram. I think they're the kind of top three that you want to exist on. That's kind of obviously where um most people are. And then I feel like a lot of the other platforms can kind of be an added extra. So your setup, you want a username that's kind of you can ideally you want to be able to have a username that is the same across it all. Obviously, it can be a little bit more difficult. For example, if it's, your artist name is your real name, sometimes, it's taken up, blah, blah, blah. But if you can kind of make sure that it's consistent across all platforms, it's one, just going to look really slick, and two, it's just going to make you much easier to find. When people are first visiting your page, what will they see? pinned post, how are you thinking about that? What they're kind of seeing, is it a really nice bio if you got your links there? Um, is it linked to something appropriate? Is it a link tree with all the different things on? Is that too much? Is it you want to be thinking about that first landing page. Is it clear exactly if you want to go to a certain area on the page? Is all the information there that you need? Pin post, like I said, is it relevant? Is it accurate? Is it in date? You want to be kind of keeping on top of these things is kind of a bare minimum. Again, a link tree, just having all the links in. I feel like again, keeping stuff updated. I always forget about Linktree. So maybe just check your Linktree if you have one, to make sure, everything is up to date in there. The content, um, what do you have to say? What do you want to say? Um, do you want it to be super casual? Do you want it to be super formal? Do you want it to be a mix of both? Video clips. We always find running socials that video clips kind of are way more engaging, because it just looks nice, and it just kind of sorry, um, yeah, it just makes it feel, I don't know, a bit more exciting, a bit more fun. You can kind of, hear your music, hear a bit from a live session, whatever it is. Is it you just talking to the camera? Um, Non-page content. Do you share your posts through your personal profile? This is obviously something you want to decide. Can whatever you want. It depends on how you want to be seen. Obviously, maybe if you've got like a super slick um page of posts, and then you go on a night out and you're doing stories of you in the bar or whatever, maybe you want to keep those two separate. But yeah, that's just something you want to kind of think about. Um, Fan page, group for fans. For example, on Facebook, have you got a group where people can kind of interact with each other? Have you got like kind of a hardcore fan base where people can kind of chat about the music, or um, you might have fans like kind of across the country. So, people might be like, oh, I really like this artist, but I don't want to go to this gig by myself. And then someone might, be able to kind of meet up with them, and things like that just make it, a little bit nicer. Post in group pages again. You can kind of post in there, kind of interact that way. Create an event for releases. So obviously we know about creating events for gigs and stuff, but yeah, can you create events for releases, so people are kind of notified that way? Oh, I have frozen. Oh, there we go. Okay, a plan. Get ready for relative events. Um, so this is going to be kind of coming onto your social media, and I feel like that sounds quite boring, tedious. Um, but I feel like if you kind of think about these steps, I feel like this is the way that we can kind of make it easier. You can kind of, yeah, get relevant, ready for a relevant event. So like for example, Six Music T-shirt day. Can you just take a picture of yourself in a band T-shirt and tag Six Music and the hashtag, and is that going to um sorry, I'm just there we go. What is your interest and passions, and what's its day? Is it relevant? They have days for literally everything. Does that, if it's, National Donut Day or whatever, is that actually just a funny way? Um, you can kind of just make a silly post and kind of engage people. It could be literally something stupid of, yeah, national favorite flavor of donut. Just, silly things that kind of break up the kind of the formality of your socials. So Twitter/Threads, if you don't know what Threads is, new platform, which is basically the Instagram version of Twitter. I feel like a big uptake of it about 2 weeks ago, and I feel like it's kind of people are slowly trying over to Threads, but it's not, it's probably going to take a bit of time, but yeah, I guess we'll just have to see how that kind of pans. Don't understand it. You've got two options. Do some reading. It's very simple. It's really a good way to kind of be engaging. There's a lot of Twitter. So yeah, if you want to use it, it's pretty easy. You can just throw stuff up pretty quickly, etc. Don't use it if you don't want to, but do have a profile as a signpost. Again, the same username. Push people to your main social so you can have, you'll have the same kind of profile picture, cover photo, but you might have of like your album, and then your pinned post could be, something obviously better. But we're not active on here. Head over to our Instagram because we're more active on there. So that's Twitter, TikTok. Obviously, this will kind of depend on who you are. You doesn't have to always have to be doing dance routines and that kind of thing. Obviously, the industry is looking at TikTok quite a lot. Is it right for you? Do you fit? How do artists you admire approach it? Some artists might be doing these stitch videos, be singing a song and be inviting people um, sing the other part. If you've seen the videos, you know what I mean. Or is it a vlog style? Recently, Bombay Bicycle Club on there, the vaccines, people that you wouldn't know or already think would be on there, normally think would be on there. But they're just doing like silly little videos, and I felt that nice that they're doing like a bit of vlog style, come behind the scenes with me. Authenticity is key. I feel like especially in kind of video, you can kind of see see if people are enjoying it. So yeah, just kind of think about if you do want to use TikTok, how you're going to kind of fit in on there. Socials, um, other options for socials. So I'd say these are just kind of extras that you can use. MailChimp, obviously earlier on touched on how important it is to have a mailing list. So yeah, you can have a MailChimp that just goes out, every month. You don't want to bombard with people with emails, because I feel like emails always feel quite, it's different to seeing like an Instagram post than receiving an email. So yeah, obviously don't clog people with information, but that can be, this is what we've been up to the past month. Snapchat, this might obviously generally Snapchat kind of is a younger audience, but maybe that's gonna work for you. Maybe you'll just use it around, campaign. That's something to kind of consider. A blog, are you a writer? Do you want to, talk about things in a little blog post? And I think that can also feel quite personal as well. WhatsApp, so you can kind of create what's called a broadcast, where you can kind of invite people to join, and you can kind of send out a big message, which could be, again, part of this album, blah blah blah, which is quite a nice way to get the information out in a different way that you don't really see as much. The only thing is people can't reply to you, so it feels a little bit more formal. I feel like it's not, yeah, you can't kind of reply to comments and things as you could maybe on other socials. Okay, socials and staying active, make it easy on yourself. You don't, you want to be able to put as much time and effort into making the music that you want to make. So it doesn't have to be anything, crazy. But yeah, make it as easy on yourself as possible. A simple document can help you keep track of everything. It'd be really useful. So I'm going to show you an example in a second of Google Sheets. Something really, really simple. plot things in, fill it out later. Create content folders. This could be in your Google Drive. That's what I use. You might have maybe, fill out half a day to go and get some photos taken or behind the scenes of in your studio, whatever it is. Then you kind of have, like a bit of a portfolio that you kind of dip into. Scheduling. So Hootsuite is something that we use, which I think you have to pay for it, or I think there might be a free version. But yeah, so you can kind of schedule social posts on there, or in app. So Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, you can now schedule in app, which obviously makes things so much easier. You don't have to be, faffing around at a computer, try to slot things in. You can literally just do it on your phone, which is, yeah, again, make it easy on yourself. Try and make things as simple as you can. So this is just a quick example of how we kind of think about socials. I feel like this is like planning socials in its easiest form. So make a Google sheet. Obviously you've got the dates, that's just week by week. Platform. So you might want to spread that information across all social platforms. Maybe it's just on stories, maybe it's just Twitter and stories. So we kind of tend to just, for example, say two or three like actual posts to the platform, and then in between that you've got stories and tweets, and I feel like that's a nice way to kind of balance it. So you can just pop that in there. Content, again, you don't have to be, sat there writing down paragraphs of things to write in. You can literally just write, I don't know. So your single might be out on the Friday, so you might be going Instagram Live, you might be doing a teaser, you might be doing, so that can all go in your content, and then you can literally just link the image and video. So you can kind of then just use that as a bit of a guide on how you can kind of do it, and I hope that makes it feel a little bit less overwhelming. You can kind of just pick out, okay, so on the Monday I've got this content, I need to write a teaser. Okay, so I'm just going to click on the link or the video, and you can just literally just make something up in that moment if you find that much easier. What's coming up? Kind of plot that into your sheet, prepping your campaign. Do you want to plot in your singles? Are you putting out a music video? Have you got press that you want to share? For example, if you've got a gig, post once a month, then every 2 weeks, then 1 week, then the day before, day of, a single as above and regularly after. Keep pushing the single as much as you can without kind of bombarding people with it. Have you put in kind of anniversaries? Oh, this EP came out last year. Is it the birthday of someone in your band? Is it your birthday? Can you kind of get people to engage that way? Hyping up other artists. You know, this artist has put out this track, it's great, etc. Blog, are you kind of directing people to your blog? Sorry. Is it just simple? Is it, just a nice live shot with the credit of the photographer? That can be, sometimes more engaging than you writing a paragraph on the album or whatever it is. Okay. Socials and staying active again. Do you need to? Does it need to be this immense pressure on yourself? There's obviously this pressure of being on it all the time. I feel like if it is becoming too much for you to kind of keep on top of that, I feel like sometimes it can kind of show on socials. It can kind of look like, people can tell that you're kind of just throwing stuff up. Are people thinking about it as much as you think they are, kind of thing? Are they bothered that you didn't post yesterday? Is actually you posting all the time kind of dipping your engagement? Do you want to make it your personal profile? Do you want to keep the two separate? If you're constantly posting, how are you going to get your main message across? If you the things that you actually want to share? Are they just going to get kind of in it all? So press and influencers, who are they? Kind of who are you targeting? I feel like you kind of want to make a list of who they are. Um, Again, like I said, the big, targets are obviously important, but you want to be kind of looking, the people who kind of working in your local scene as well. Where Twitter is really useful. Like I said, um, people have their where they work in there. Some people have their email in there and articles. If it, it'd be an easy way to find them, all the of articles of people, writing about the people that you like, the people that you're similar to. Can you find them like that? Have you kind of looked at the at who's writing about the people? You And then just literally again, Google Sheets is like a really easy to use kind of tool. Create a database of writing connections. Obviously, as a PR, I kind of have like a huge database. Yeah, just start making a bit of a list, who they write for, what's their name, who's their email, what kind of music they're into is just a really good place to start and kind of making reaching out to them. Like we took networking and conference, influential people and press are going to be at these things, so that's where you can kind of those make those connections and really like meeting people and having that kind of true connection. It's not all just about kind of work. It's kind of what can you offer them as much as they can offer you, I think is important. Practical tools, a press pack. So if you're doing press yourself, have you got a press release? Have you got an EPK that's kind of got up-to-date press shots? Have you got updated press quotes? All these things that you want to be kind of ideally keeping on top of and just having, especially people might reach out to you and ask for a press release, so it's good if you just can kind of pull one of those together yourself. Radio, BBC introducing, obviously, reach out to your local station. Why not use all these tools that are accessible to you as an artist? Amazing Radio, again, you can just submit your music through them. Tom Robinson Show, Fresh on the Net. You have to, you have to be uploaded to introducing to do that. But again, why would you not upload to introducing? Student and local radio, kind of engage with them. Can you do a show with them? Can you engage with them that way? Pretty much every city will have a student radio. So these are free. Why not kind of engage with them as at least a starting point? Submit Hub, obviously as PR I don't really use this, but again a good place to kind of get your music out across to loads of publications. So yeah, I think that these are all really like great kind of starting points if you're kind of unsure of where you want to be. Paid advertising, so digital, have you got a budget to promote your release? If so, do you want to kind of put money on these kind of things? Facebook ads and YouTube ads, obviously, these do cost, but you can kind of build an audience in there, which is kind of what we were touching on earlier. So they're generally quite easy to use. You can kind of set, the age. Do they have kids? What other stuff are they kind of liking? So you can kind of go in there and kind of build your audience yourself. So even if you're not, imminently wanting to do that, I think that's a really good place to kind of just have a look, and see kind of the people that you can be targeting. Physical, obviously posters, flyers, stickers, merch. Again, these kind of have a cost to them. But yeah, can you be putting up poster drums? Can you be flyering? Stickers is probably your cheapest option. Can you kind of be using those? Merch, merch is, free advertisement once you've once you've sold it and obviously paid it off. But you know, people are walking around with a tote bag that has your band logo on. And people say, "Oh, that's a nice bag." People say, "Oh, it's this band, blah blah blah." So yeah, that's all just obviously um paid advertisement to think of. So I have rambled on enough now. So if any of you have any questions, just let me know.